Once you set your mind on accomplishing a long-term goal or objective, you will immediately be confronted with the first problem. There's going to be a lot of problems along the way to accomplishing that long-term goal. As you encounter each one of those problems, they're going to present unique challenges and unique opportunities to learn more about the world around you. It's how you go about that that determines whether or not you're going to succeed in the overall project. I've found over the years that learning to be a freestyle troubleshooter is really at the heart of solving all of those problems. Freestyle troubleshooting does not begin with some sort of a flowchart or a basic idea of exactly what domain you're working in to solve the problem. In fact, you may not even understand the problem itself fully when you first engage with it. Freestyling is all about solving what you've never solved before. And it becomes the essence of any homesteading adventure. Let me show you what I'm talking about. One critical part of our homesteading adventure is the desire to have livestock. We want to have at least sheep out here on the property. We'd love to see if we could leverage up and maybe get to cows someday. Small cows, Dexters or maybe Jerseys. We're more interested in the milk than we are the meat, but right now all we have is a bunch of open pasture. We don't have any animals out here. And so that is our long-term goal and objective, is to get those animals onto the property. But just getting animals onto the property isn't going to be sufficient. Those animals aren't going to last long if I don't do something to protect them. So protecting the animals becomes one of the very first problems that we're going to face, because we're not really set up for that yet. So the property does have most of its perimeter fence in place, meaning that the very edges of the property have fencing around them. That fencing is in different states of repair and disrepair. Some of it we'll be taking a look at here in a minute. It needs to be addressed right away before it falls over. And it's that fencing that provides the initial barrier that not only prevents the sheep from leaving the property, but can actually prevent predators and other people from entering the property from outside. So managing a perimeter fence is probably the number one and first most important thing that any livestock owner is going to have to do. Now, beyond that, there are plenty of other problems that will still need to be solved, and we'll address those one at a time. So we're putting together a series of videos here. Those videos are all about how we're going to get livestock onto the property here. And we're going to take each one of these problems one at a time and freestyle troubleshoot them. Figure out first exactly what the problem is, second, what can be done to solve it, and then third, actually taking those steps to correct it. And I call this freestyle troubleshooting because we really don't know anything about this setup. I was not the one who installed these gates, so I have no idea what I'm going to encounter when I look at this portion of the fencing. Just seemed like the gates was a great place to start looking at perimeter fence. This is the place where we have to come onto and off of the property. It is the one place where we expect other people to access the property as well, and we need to be able to secure it. Now, currently we can close the gates, but they don't meet up perfectly. And that is a problem. If we have a gap underneath the gates, and the sheep do get out of whatever pen or enclosure we have them in, and they come to the front gate and find a gap, they'll crawl right under, and once they're out, they're into the road. This is one lane gravel, a lot of blind turns, and a sheep wandering around out there in the road is very likely to be struck. So the troubleshooting begins by just taking a good long look and give yourself time. I try not to get in a hurry about anything. We've been here for 8 months. And I've driven in and out of these gates many times, and I've seen just about everything there is to see, but I expect, even while I'm making this video, I'm going to discover something I wasn't aware of. But right now we can immediately see that this gate is definitely not level. And the biggest cause for that is that this post is not level. And the post on the other side of the driveway is the same. But you can see that post is relatively straight on that side of the driveway, so it hasn't moved a whole lot. This post, on the other hand, is moving in 2 different directions, so it is not at all plumb. So that's going to be problem number one, is figuring out how to get this gate level, which means getting this post plumb. Now the mechanics of how we do that is really not that complicated. We're going to have to remove the gate. I may need to remove the fencing from the post as well, just to make it easier to work with. This bush is going to have to go away, so we'll have to get that out of our way. And then we're going to have to dig out the bottom of the post. So it's going to be a relatively large hole, and mostly on one side. We're going to be digging out this side in here on the driveway side. And that's going to allow us to push the post back in this direction. Now hopefully once we've got enough dirt removed, I can just lean on it and push it over, and then we'll use some 2x4s to brace it up before we put some new concrete in there. And that's sort of the general plan for how we're going to solve that particular problem. Once that's done, we should be able to rehang this gate, and we'll be hanging it then on a level post. So just looking at how these brackets work, this is the actual hinge that's attached to the gate. This just slips down over the metal post, which is itself a part of a long post that goes all the way through the wooden gate post. And we can see it just barely there. It's just sticking out the other side. So that is what's holding the top of the gate up. And it looks like it's in fairly good shape. I do see some rust on the nut, but for the most part, the metal is not tweaked or bent. It looks like that one's going to be in good shape. Once we get the post straightened up, we might be able to just reuse that one in its current position. We won't know until we get it straightened out. And looking at this one on the bottom is a different story. And looking at this bottom post, it's pretty easy to see that it's either bent or twisted. It does look like that it's tweaked pretty good. So we may end up having to replace this hanger in order to get this gate to hang straight. So in the end, the unlevel gate may need to get some new hangers in order to be able to hang it level. There's nothing wrong with the post. We don't have any rot down here at the bottom, so we're nice and clean at the bottom of the post. We're just going to have to dig this thing out in order to get it straightened up. As far as the bush is concerned, this is appears to be what's known as a flaming bush, so it'll turn bright red in the fall, and that is an invasive species here in Kentucky. It is used as an ornamental bush. Doesn't really serve a whole lot of purpose though, so I'm not going to be heartbroken if we end up killing it by taking it out. The fencing itself is standard large animal fencing. It does have some smaller gaps down at the bottom, which would be sufficient for holding sheep in. So the fence will work for our purposes. We don't need the barbed wire up top unless we're going to be bringing in horses or cows. And so it's okay if that's a little bit loose. This fence post is solid. Doesn't seem to be any problem with it. All the fence posts down this side seem good. This other gate is a little bit deceptive because it's level. It looks extremely level, in fact. And the post doesn't appear to be leaning in either direction, so it's pretty solid. But when you look at the pins that it's sitting on, the whole picture changes here. Because that pin is definitely not in good shape and not going to be reusable. In fact, we're going to have a difficult time getting the gate lifted off of this pin. So that's one major hurdle that we'll have to deal with here. Obviously, I'm going to have to put new pins in this post to realign the gate. Looking at this top pin, yeah, so this gate was apparently run into with a vehicle at some point. Not only is the bottom pin bent so that the bracket doesn't even fit down over the post totally here on top. And then working our way back off of this post, again, it does seem very stable. So this is a sturdy, solid post, but the fence it's attached to has got some issues. And you can see these are leaning already. Yeah, this fence post is completely rotted off at the bottom. So currently, It is a weight that is pulling the fence over rather than a post that's holding it up. Same problem here. The bottom of the post is just completely eaten away, so there's nothing holding it in place. So we've got 2 posts there that are destroyed, and then a third one that doesn't look like it's long for the world. So this obviously got some insects up inside of it, and then a woodpecker went to town on it. So this is the kind of damage that a woodpecker can do to a fence post. Chasing after ants or termites or something else. Let's see. This post is not too bad, so it's currently at least solid in the ground. It's got a little bit of wiggle to it, and it's obviously going to need to be replaced. We'll probably go ahead and replace these posts with some steel T-posts. They're just easier to work with, and they don't rot off at the bottom like these have. And that's probably a good place to cut off on this video. We've identified the problem specifically and isolated it to the gate. There are still some other issues with fencing that are happening right around the gate. And we'll try not to address all of these in a single video. It's really too much to swallow all at once. And the whole point here is to try to break this down into smaller pieces that are easier to digest and not quite so complicated to deal with. You want to try to keep the problem set small so that you're working with a manageable piece. So, for right now, we do appreciate you joining us here on the Return Homestead. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please take a moment to do that. While you've got that window open, hit the thumbs up icon. That's going to let the algorithm know you enjoyed the video, so they'll share it out with more people. We'll see you next time.